two, one.
It's Senate Judiciary Committee hearing day for Christine Blasey Ford, one of Brett Kavanaugh's accusers, and Brett Kavanaugh will testify as well. So that's all that matters today. I'm Ben Shapiro. This is The Ben Shapiro Show. Oh, yes, we will go wall to wall with all of the latest. Suffice it to say, this is not going well for Republicans. I will explain why for all of the reasons it is not going well. Also, what the actual hearings should have been designed to do and what they actually were not designed to do. We'll get to all of that in just 1 second. First, if it feels like you need a drink, you're not alone. Okay, the reality is that on a day like this, pretty much all of us, especially in this business, need a drink. And if you actually would like a drink of something good, then you should go out and check out our friends over at Winc. Winc makes it easy to discover great wines. Well, we've taken a little bit of time to wring ourselves out from the new year, and if you want to, go back to drinking, now's the time to do it. Go check it out with Winc. Winc's wine experts select wines matched to your taste, personalized for you, shipped right to your door, starting just $13 a bottle. There's nothing like coming home to a bottle of delicious Winc wine selected just for you. And they have this thing called the palate profile quiz, and they ask you simple questions like, do you like blueberries, or how do you take your coffee? And then they give you wine recommendations based on that. Folks around the offices have had taste tests of the wine, and they love it. I mean, so much so that they are not usable the rest of the day after these taste tests. But you can go check out winc.com right now. It's trywinc.com/Ben, TRYWINC.com/Ben. And when you use that /Ben, you get $20 off your first shipment, which is a pretty solid deal. Trywinc.com/Ben. Winc sends wines curated to your taste. Each month there are new delicious wines. There's no membership fees. You can skip any month. You can cancel anytime, and shipping is covered. So pretty solid deal. Go check it out right now. Trywinc.com/Ben for $20 off. Okay, well, today is, of course, the big hearing day, and today is the day in which the Senate Judiciary Committee, after at long last, interviewed Christine Blasey Ford, who is the first accuser against Brett Kavanaugh. Now, to stop for just a second before we actually get into the accusations that Christine Blasey Ford made, we should recognize that there have been a number of allegations that have been made, and I want to go through them. This is the one that matters. Christine Blasey Ford is the one that matters because it is the most credible. And it's the most credible because it is the one that rings the truest. There are still questions about it, and this is the problem for Republicans. From the very outset, it was unclear what Republicans were attempting to argue about these allegations. Were they arguing that Christine Blasey Ford was lying? I, for one, never argued that Christine Blasey Ford was lying. I always believed that she sort of believed what she believed. She'd come forward with these allegations before Brett Kavanaugh was even selected for the Supreme Court when he was just on the short list, and there's evidence that she had talked about it back in 2012. I was never somebody who suggested that Christine Blasey Ford was lying. I questioned whether her memories might not have been correct, because memories change over 30 years. I questioned whether, more importantly, the evidence was sufficient to knock Brett Kavanaugh out. And this was always the big question. The big question to me was, is an allegation alone, no matter how credible, without any corroborating evidence whatsoever, is that enough to stop a nomination? That's really the question. Because no matter how credible a witness is, it's going to be he said, she said, if they're the only people in the room. And in this particular case, Christine Blasey Ford had suggested there were other people at a party when she was 15 and Brett Kavanaugh was 17. She says that at that party, Kavanaugh and his friend Mark Judge forced her into a room, turned up the music, and Kavanaugh forced her onto a bed where he attempted to take off her clothes and then placed his hand over her mouth when she tried to scream. There's no other witness that has verified this account. Mark Judge has denied it. I think he should be subpoenaed, but Mark Judge denied it. Brett Kavanaugh denied it. She says there were other people at the party. We'll get into her specific allegations in a moment, including one of her close friends who has denied that she was at any party with Brett Kavanaugh. So there is no corroborating evidence. We don't know date. We don't know location. We don't know time. We don't know how she got there. So even if she's telling the absolute truth, there is no way to actually corroborate any of her story. The reason that matters is because this was happening in a quasi-public setting. There should be some corroborating detail. If you look at situations involving Bill Cosby or Harvey Weinstein, there are ways that you can corroborate at least that people were telling the story at the time. As I've mentioned on the show, when I was in high school, I've said 15, but I believe I was actually 13 or 14 because it was my sophomore year of high school. When I was in high school, I was abused by some kids in my class. I remember where it was, I remember who the kids were, and I should be able to lock down the date if I just look at a yearbook or look back at a calendar. Okay? And I can find people to corroborate the story. There's no corroborating evidence here, and Blasey Ford has been unable to really corroborate any of that. Now, does that mean she's lying? No, it doesn't mean she's lying. It doesn't mean she's lying at all. And so what this comes down to is the allegation itself enough? If you believe the allegation itself is enough, all that mattered today from the hearing is that Blasey Ford was emotional when she spoke about this because she obviously experienced a trauma and experienced pain, both of which I believe, by the way. I believe that she did experience some trauma and she is experiencing pain. I don't doubt any of that. But the question becomes, without any other corroborating evidence, is that enough? And so that just made today basically a sort of public assessment of her performance. Was her performance credible? Was her performance believable? Was her performance emotional? Which is kind of gross. I mean, that is kind of gross. The fact that the public question was going to come down to how well could this alleged attempted rape victim tell her story? Because in that sense, if she had been more robotic, would we not have believed her? If she had come off a little bit less collected, would we not have believed her? If she had not come across emotional, would we not have believed her? You know, those are uncomfortable questions. But that's why Republicans never should have gotten into this line of questioning in the first place. The question always should have been, listen, even if we believe your story, there's no corroborating evidence and we have a denial on the other side. That means that there is some burden of proof to come forward with some form of corroborating evidence, and you just haven't supplied that. Because Republicans didn't do that, the hearing turned into, is Christine Blasey Ford a credible witness? Is she a believable witness? And what you'll see is a lot of folks on the right saying she's not credible, she's not believable because her memory was skewed in other areas. But her contention, and I think it's not a completely unfair contention, is, well, I may not have remembered the actual date of this happening, but I certainly remember the feeling of being pushed down on a bed, having a guy jump on top of me, put his hand over my mouth, and I remember his face. Right? That's not an incredible suggestion. It's not non-credible. And that's relatively credible. When bad things happen in your life, you remember the specific bad thing that happened in your life. You don't necessarily remember well the surrounding circumstances. The problem is there's no way for us to adjudicate whether her memory is faulty or not because there's no corroborating evidence. Okay, so that's Christine Blasey Ford. I wanted to mention these other allegations to demonstrate that not every allegation necessarily ought to be believed just on the basis of the allegation. So Deborah Martinez said in a piece in The New Yorker earlier this week on Sunday, The New Yorker reported that Martinez had alleged that Kavanaugh thrust his penis in her face at a frat party at which he was drinking while he was at Yale University. But the New Yorker piece is extraordinarily weak. According to the publication, she was hesitant to speak publicly because, quote, her memories contained gaps because she had been drinking at the time of the alleged incident. And she was, quote, unquote, reluctant to characterize Kavanaugh's role in the alleged incident with certainty. So even she says that she didn't know what happened, this particular accuser, only after, and there's a direct quote from the New Yorker, 6 days of carefully assessing her memories and consulting with her attorneys did she decide to come forward. No corroborating witnesses have come forward. Then, yesterday, there was an accusation made by Julie Swetnick, who is a woman brought forward by Michael Avenatti, the lawyer for Stormy Daniels, and 2020 Democratic candidate for president. And according to her sworn declaration, she saw Kavanaugh get drunk in high school and then grope girls against their will, as well as spiking punch with Quaaludes and alcohol and participating in a gang rape line at multiple parties. That's her description. Swetnick says she went to approximately 10 parties at which such events took place. Sorry, it's Deborah Ramirez, not Martinez. Swetnick says she went to 10 parties at which such activities took place. She says she was the victim of such a gang rape, but is unclear in her declaration whether Kavanaugh participated. Avenatti refuses to answer simple questions on her behalf. He has not made her available to testify. She says there are other witnesses, but none have come forward. So again, an accusation with no corroborating evidence. The New York Times put it kindly, quote, none of Ms. Swetnick's claims could be independently corroborated by the New York Times, and her lawyer, Michael Avenatti, declined to make her available for an interview. And then late on Wednesday afternoon, a fourth allegation came forward. This was from NBC News, reporting that the Senate Judiciary Committee was inquiring about another allegation of misconduct. They reported that an anonymous woman said that her daughter's friend was physically assaulted by Kavanaugh in a Washington, D.C. area bar while he was drunk. She said when they left the bar under the influence of alcohol, they were all shocked when Kavanaugh shoved her friend up against the wall very aggressively and sexually. There were at least 4 witnesses, including my daughter. The daughter has not come forward. The woman has not come forward. None of the witnesses have come forward. So another uncorroborated, in this case, anonymous allegation made against Brett Kavanaugh. Now, maybe Kavanaugh did some of this. Maybe he did none of this. We don't know any of those questions. What is certainly true is that there is not a court of law in the United States, civil or criminal, that would either convict or punish based on just the allegations alone. There's no way to do that. So is it in a country where there is due process, it seems to me that an allegation alone should not be enough to support the destruction of a man's life and a man's career, no matter how credible the person telling the story. And this is what Republicans failed to say in the lead up to this hearing. Instead, the narrative was put out there that maybe she was lying or maybe she was politically motivated, but that was never the question. We live in a system where due process actually matters. And that due process doesn't necessarily apply in the court of public opinion, but if we're going to be intellectually honest about how we actually assess situations, we have to have something beyond a mere allegation. Maybe it's that there are multiple allegations, and all the allegations have similar elements, as in the Bill Cosby or Harvey Weinstein cases. Maybe it's that there's corroborating evidence that some of this stuff happened, as with Roy Moore. But an allegation alone, it seems to me, is really weak sauce. And if that had been the case, nothing in the hearing with Christine Blasey Ford would have changed anything today. nothing would have changed anything, because not only did she not provide any corroborating evidence, what she actually showed is that the only memory she seems to hold clearly is the actual incident itself with Kavanaugh. Everything else, her memory seems particularly hazy. And again, that doesn't answer whether this happened or not. And it doesn't even answer whether she is correctly remembering what happened with Kavanaugh or not. What it is suggesting is that memory itself is variable. And not only that, it suggests that without any other corroborating evidence, which she actually weakened today, right? She weakens the possibility of corroborating evidence today. She did not strengthen the possibility of corroborating evidence. Nothing she said today brought additional evidence to the table. It was just her telling her story in her words. So you have to ask yourself, what changed between yesterday and today? Last night, she put forward her actual statement. Her statement was written. It was very similar to what she had told the newspapers. It's very similar to what she had said in a letter to Dianne Feinstein and a representative in California named Anna Eshoo. None of that changed. The only thing that changed is that we actually put a face to the accusation. If that's the case, then what we really had today was an emotional appeal. And listen, I felt the emotional appeal too, because it's hard not to watch a woman who's experiencing pain that she attributes to a dire trauma, right? To an incident that any of us would have responded with fury to, and say, okay, well, that's now more credible. But is it more credible because she said it out loud? Is it more, as opposed to credible, does it provide any level of objective verification of the events she speaks of because she said it out loud? I don't think so. I don't think so. And if it does, you have to ask yourself, what exactly changed? What exactly changed? Now, this was a loss for Republicans. And I'll explain why it was a loss for Republicans in just a second. But first, let's talk about your sleep quality. There's nobody on the planet like you, so why would you buy a generic mattress built for anyone else? Helix Sleep has built a sleep quiz that takes 2 minutes to complete. They use the answers to match your body type and sleep preferences to the perfect mattress. Whether you're a side sleeper or a hot sleeper, whether you like a plush or a firm bed, with Helix, there's no more guessing and no more confusion. Just go to helixsleep.com/Ben, take their 2-minute sleep quiz, and they will match you to a mattress that will give you the best sleep of your life. I've taken this sleep quiz with my wife. We ordered the mattress. It came in the mail. You unwrap it. It just inflates in front of you. You pop it on the bed frame. You're good to go. I got one for my sister for her wedding because the mattresses are just that comfortable. Couples can even have each side tailored for your particular sleep preferences. They have a 10-year warranty, and you get to try it out for 100 nights risk-free. So there really is nothing to lose. Right now, Helix is offering up to $125 off all mattress orders. Get up to $125 off at helixsleep.com/Ben. That's helixsleep.com/Ben for $125 off your mattress order. Again, helixsleep.com/Ben. Go check it out. Their mattresses are supremely comfortable and, again, tailored specifically to you. So you're getting a tailored mattress made just for you. helixsleep.com/Ben. Use the /Ben to let them know we sent you and get $125 off your mattress order. Okay, so back to the setup for the hearing. What Democrats wanted out of the hearing was something very simple, a binary. She's lying or she's not lying. That was the binary. And Democrats said, we believe her, she's not lying. And what they're hoping to do by that is suggest that anyone who didn't believe her was therefore a sexist and doesn't believe women who are credible. But that really wasn't the question. Again, the question for this hearing should have been, even if you believe she is not lying, are allegations without any corroborating evidence whatsoever? None. Zero. Zilch. Any corroborating evidence? Are those allegations enough to finish a guy's career? That's how Republicans should have played this. They should have said, we don't know whether to believe her or not. We may find her credible, but we can't have a standard of evidence in this country where people are denied a career and a life based on unverifiable and unverified allegations from a vague time in the past where there should be public witnesses and there are none. That's what Republicans should have been arguing. Instead, they allowed Democrats to turn this into, is she believable or is she not? And the answer is, yeah, she's believable. There's nothing about her that suggests that she's not believable. Right? Like, listen to her tell her story. So here is Ford. She told her story. And what you'll see is that Republicans had appointed a woman named Mitchell, who's a prosecutor, to question her. Right? And this woman basically went after the fact that Blasey Ford's memory has lots of holes in different places. But Blasey Ford basically defeats all of those attempts with a simple statement, which is, I may not remember everything else in my life, but I remember that time the guy jumped on top of me, put his hand on my mouth, and tried to rape me, right? That's all she had to say. It takes everything else off the table. If Republicans had said before that, listen, it sounds like what happened to you was awful, but we have a guy over here who denies it. You've provided no other evidence. And then they'd asked her, okay, well, you can't provide any other evidence. Can you help us? Can you help us establish another chain of evidence? If Republicans had done that, then maybe this turns into something else. Instead, what it turned into is we're supposed to doubt her because of various questions about her history of flying, or we're supposed to doubt her because she has not been completely forthcoming about her polygraph or stuff like that. They're trying to kind of suggest that she is not inherently believable. Again, it's hard to claim that an attempted rape account is false because she fibbed about her dislike for flying, if in fact she fibbed about her dislike for flying. We'll get into all of that in just a second. Here is what Ford talked about today.
I am here today not because I want to be. I am terrified. I am here because I believe it is my civic duty to tell you what happened to me while Brett Kavanaugh and I were in high school.
So she obviously is pretty collected here. And then she goes on.